Hi, and welcome to the Days Gone podcast. I'm Claire Weaver, a screenwriter, author, and Days Gone fan, and this podcast is a place to discuss the game in all its glory, share my opinions, both popular and unpopular, and listen to me fangirl over one of the best games ever made. There will be spoilers ahead, so continue at your own risk. Welcome to the Freak Show. Before we get started, I want to let you know you can get your Days Gone inspired merchandise at the new URL of beartraptavern.threadless.com. There's tees, tanks, stickers, pins, notebooks, phone cases, art prints, and more, and it all ships internationally, so you can rep your love of the game all around the world. Joining me today is an OG content creator for Days Gone and one of the community's most dedicated members. He's a virtual photographer extraordinaire, the creator of the Broken Road blog, and he now works as community manager for a little company known as Ben Studio. It is my pleasure to welcome Viking Dad 278, aka Kevin McAllister, to the podcast. Hi, Kevin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Claire. Thank you for having me. That was a great introduction. I felt like I was about to walk out and go box somebody, so thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And I am so excited to talk to you about Days Gone and all the ways that it's changed your life, all the ways that it's changed many people's lives. And we can just geek out and share our love of an amazing game. But before we get into that, I want to ask the origins of your username, Viking Dad. Where does that come from?
So, unfortunately, it's not really a great story. I really like Viking history, and I'm a dad, and that is literally it. Like, I wasn't expecting to be on social media long, so I didn't put much creativity into my name, and here we are. So I can't change it now.
And the 278, any meaning to that?
Yeah, it's a combination of my daughter's birthdays.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, so you did put some thought into it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, that's cute. All right, Days Gone. How did you discover it, and how many times have you played it?
Oh, so little story. I remember seeing the E3 showcase. I was excited for the game, and then it had a release date of April 2019, and my wife was expecting our third child at the time. So I kind of wrote it off like, oh, I'm not going to be able to play this right away. Unfortunately for my wife, she was late. So she ran about 10 days late. So that Friday, I went to GameStop. I'm like, you know what? Let me pick up this game. Let me get the weekend in it at least before the third child comes. Right?
Wait, so she was 10 days late, but at that point, 7 days late? And you're like, it'll wait till Monday.
Yeah,
She can hold on till Monday.
Yeah, let me get a little gaming in before I can't game anymore. So I put in a few hours of the weekend, was loving it, and then not too much later, my son was born. Put it on the shelf for a little bit, but then we had a routine every night where he would sleep on my chest for 2.5 hours. So and during that time, I can't go to sleep, right? So he's a newborn, right. So I'm sitting in a chair. He's on my chest. I put the headphones on, and I'm playing Days Gone, and that's how I got through my first playthrough of Days Gone, exactly like that, every single night, like clockwork. How many times I've played it? I think, including our Ben Plays live stream walkthrough last year, I think that made it 7. On my PlayStation 5, it's got me clocked in over 500 hours, and then PC is another 100 or so for when we were gearing up for launch. So, yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Challenge mode? Have you played much challenge mode?
Yes, I got all the gold trophies. I had to get all trophies for Days Gone, so 100% across the board. Yes. Did I try it for PC? No. I did it on console. That was enough for me.
I still haven't got all the I've got barely any of the trophies in challenge mode, and I still am missing. I got platinum, but I don't have 100% on all the collectibles or whatever it is that you have to do to get that 100%, that proper 100%. Yep. I'm still working on that. There's just so much. I love just playing the game. Every time I fire it up, it's why would I want to go do something else when I can just play the game? I love just replaying it.
Yeah, some people like the trophies and some don't. And I think it's okay for both, right? For me,
Hmm.
I go for the platinums when I'm really invested in a game. So it's almost like my love letter to studios and developers of like, I loved your game so much, I wanted to do every single mechanic there was, even if sometimes I pounded my head against the wall to get that one bronze trophy, right? But yeah, I became kind of a trophy hunter with since Days Gone, and
Mm,
I don't do it for all the games. It's really just the games I'm super invested in. But I know so many people who just want to play the story, right? They just want to
right.
take on the hordes, and that's fine. You don't have to get the trophies. There's no requirement for it, right? They're optional.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the great things about Days Gone is that you have people who are newcomers to video gaming. I mean, I speak to so many people in the community that's like, I bought a PlayStation 4 or a PlayStation 5, and Days Gone was the first game I ever played. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry that it's like you started at the best game ever made.
It's only
You are now
downhill from
no
here.
longer going to be satisfied with any, you're not going to like any other video game that you play. Like, I'm sorry that you peaked early.
Right?
That's it. And then you talk to other people like Spornicus Rex, expert gamer, knows the ins and outs of like how to game everything, how to do all the systems and the trophies and all of that stuff. And he loves it. You have the two complete opposite ends of the scale. The expert gamers, like the gamer gamers, and then the casual gamers. Everyone comes together in Days Gone and finds something that they can love about it.
I think it's because it has a little something for everyone, right? Like it has the gameplay of the hordes. It has that thrill of the dynamic open world encounters. It has the story. It has riding a bike, So you have your racing fans who like to ride, just go around the world. It has your exploration, and then it has the challenges. So I think that's why it speaks to a lot of people is because there
Hmm.
is a little bit of something in there for everybody.
You mentioned that you have platinum in other games. What was the first game you platinumed? Do you
Ooh.
remember?
No.
Or what was
I,
the most recent game you platinumed?
the most recent one I platinum was The Witcher 3, and I'm very proud of that one because it took forever.
I can imagine. It takes forever just to play that game, let alone platinum that game.
Yeah, I dove back into it with the next gen update that released last December, and
Hmm.
from there on out, I was just playing the heck out of it. I played the two DLCs, 100% in both DLCs. Yeah, just kind of fell in love with that world again, and yeah, that's my most recent one.
Yeah. Well, congrats. That's
Thank you.
quite the achievement.
Thank you. My gaming has reached its bar now that I can't go any higher.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens next. All right. So you were one of the first people in the Days Gone community creating content. You were live streaming and sharing photo mo captures, and you had the amazing Broken Road blog. What inspired you to start creating all of that content? And how did you do it with a newborn?
Oh, the Broken Road blog. It feels like so long ago. I missed that thing. I wasn't on social media. I had a Twitter account, but it was like I was just like following news, right? Like
Hmm.
I maybe had like 15 bot accounts or something following me. I don't know. Like I didn't tweet. I just followed things. Um, and Days Gone came out, and I started playing it, and I'm just like, you know what? Let me go in there and just like congratulate Ben Studio for making this game. Like, why not? I'm having a heck of a time with it. And I started doing that, and some devs from the team started interacting with me. I started, knowing who they were from the studio and figuring out who Ben Studio is. Where they're from, and yeah, I just kind of I started from there with sharing early beginner screenshots, like basic screenshots that I look back at now and I'm like, oof, Kevin, you could have did a little something there, right? Like literally no editing, just like boop, screenshot captured. Um, and then I fell in love with it so much that I'm like, you know what? I want to write more of my thoughts that I can't put in a 250 character limit on Twitter. So I made a free blog and started writing, what I loved about the game. And then I'm like, well, there's really no one out there right now that's making Days Gone content. And if they are, it's like the really, really big creators, like the Rad Brad, who's awesome and stuff, right? But nothing on like a smaller scale. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Let's see what I can do with this. So reached out and got a couple interviews from the devs at the studio. And then that's kind of what really started snowballing it. That's where I started getting recognized, you could say, even with my small page, like, because, maybe the Ben Studio page would retweet it, or, the devs I interviewed would retweet or something. And so it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then I'm like, well, I want to do stuff, with the community, because that's kind of why I'm on Twitter at this point. It's just I like interacting with people. I like talking to them about the game. And, we found, I felt like a kind of a niche little community there on Twitter, our own little space where we shared virtual photography shots all the time. And then I started doing like, holding monthly virtual photography themes, because I got involved in the virtual photography community by just sharing a couple screenshots, which greatly helped me actually sort of know what I'm doing with photo mode now. And, being in that community kind of opened it up even more. And then, then we just then I'm like, you know what? Okay, I put my face behind my account for a while. Let's stream, right? And when I was streaming, I had like one viewer, maybe two at the most at that time, but I was having fun doing it. And I mean, when it all came down to it, it was just I just loved what I was doing, and that was solely it. And whether people read my blog or they didn't, it was fine, because I would look at the statistics, and it wasn't many people in the beginning that read the blog. Um, but it was just, yeah, straight out of passion, that why I wanted to keep creating.
And then you went on to get interviews with Jeff Ross and Jim Pirri and tons of really cool people connected to the game. What are some of the highlights?
Yeah, they were all awesome. Every single person that I had the luxury to interview was just so nice. Jim Peary was great. I love that guy. Boozer's the man. Eric Allen Kramer's Iron Mike. I was able to interview him. He was awesome. Um, my friend Eric Jensen was on there at one point, and even one of our current open world designers, Philip Wilson. Yeah, I mean, they were all just kind of fun in their own right, because at that time, that's when I wanted to learn everything I could about this game, whether the ins and outs of it. So doing those things was just kind of like just really cool to start learning more about how the industry worked.
And the blog is it's still up.
It is still there. I peeked at it a little bit ago. I'm like, oh, memories. But yeah, it's still there.
And it's you say memories, but it was what, 3.5 years ago?
Exactly, right?
Not that
Like,
long ago.
I know, and it feels like an eternity. It's so weird.
But yeah, for anyone who's interested, the URL is thebrokenroad.blog, right?
Yes. I had to think about
Okay.
that for a second. Yes.
For the first anniversary of the game, you organized Days Gone Week. Can you talk about what that was and how that all came together?
Oh yeah, Days Gone Week. That was a fun time. That was at the time where COVID was just hit the world, right? So like we
Oh,
were
God,
all
yeah, of course.
so we were all isolated. And I had it in my mind a little bit before that, but once COVID hit, it was kind of like the perfect opportunity to bring people together virtually and celebrate something that we all love. And it turned out a lot better than I expected. It was just me kind of talking to a bunch of our community members. It's like, hey, would you want to participate in this thing I'm trying to put together? This is all on us. Whatever you want to do. If you don't want to do it, fine. It's if you want to share something, go ahead and share it, right? And then it just kind of became a more organized thing. And we had a bunch of people doing videos. We had a virtual photography week contest that I actually teamed up with Ben Studio at the time, and they sent me some like Days Gone T-shirts and stuff
Oh,
to give as
nice.
prizes.
Oh, that's cool.
Um,
How did that come about?
so I reached out to the previous community manager at Ben Studio. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be doing this and this and this and this. Is there anything maybe Ben can help with for doing this Days Gone week? And he's like, yeah, I'll try and get some, prizes out to you and stuff. So yeah, a couple weeks later, I got like, I think it was like 5 shirts at the time, maybe a couple patches or something. And I shipped those to the winners of the virtual photography contest that we had. Um, every day was like a certain themed day. We had like a Nero day, a Deacon St. John day, a Boozer day, Freakers, right? Um,
That's
and just
awesome.
yeah, it just had kind of started the conversation like in the beginning of your day of like, hey, we're talking Days Gone. Um, we had talked to a bunch of people and they were live streaming it. So we had like a live stream schedule almost like, hey, you can go see this content creator streaming at this time. And then I started reaching out to people that is completely out of my network because I was a very, very small page. And I reached out to Greg Miller from Kind of Funny Games, and he was super supportive. And he announced it on his Kind of Funny Games daily podcast, which was super cool at the time. Um, and it just started kicking off from there, and people just started figuring out, and then using the hashtag Days Gone Week, which people still used it even like a year and a half after that, which was kind of cool to see. But it was just like a whole community led event that we were all just sharing our passion for the game and our love for Days Gone through our content creation. And it was just this whole united front. And that's what made it so much fun.
Last year was another big celebration of the anniversary with Days Gone live streams from key members of the community, a special podcast interview dropped, and Bend live streamed with special guest Sam Witwer. Is there anything planned for this year?
So nothing to that extent, but I'm always on the lookout for our community creations. Whenever they share photo mode shots, I always love looking at them, sharing them. If anyone is streaming that day, you'll probably see Ben Studio pop in at some points. But yeah, I any type of anniversary, I always love to celebrate them because they're just so much fun. You're just celebrating a game you love, and it's like, hey, this game shipped 4 years ago. This game shipped 5 years ago, and it's one of those things where communities get together and just kind of share their love for the game.
Yeah. Yeah, the community around this game is phenomenal. I've said this before about how I've been on Reddit, on other subreddits for other games, and it's just a toxic wasteland or just a wasteland, or there's no sense of community. It's just people maybe sharing fun clips or photo mo captures, but a lot of just people yelling into the void or negging on the game or whatever, getting in fights with each other. The Days Gone community isn't like that. I was so surprised when I got on the subreddit for the first time that it was this wonderful, supportive place filled with people who want to celebrate the game and want to help other people celebrate the game. And I see that as kind of coming from you a lot of the time. You originated a lot of that kind of tone of the subreddit and of the community. And now you're working at Bend. It's so awesome that you're there in an official capacity as a community manager. You are the perfect person to do that because you have, in part, been the foundation of the community.
Well, thank you very much for those kind words. um, I always said the easiest thing to do on social media is to be kind, right? Like we're all on there to share our passions, to talk with one another. Like it's super easy just to drop a like, just drop a comment of somebody's photo mode shots like, "Oh, that's awesome." Or, go on the subreddit and start talking to people like, "Yeah, I love this part too." And constructive feedback is good, but there's no room for toxicity in gaming communities anymore. Like gaming is fun. This is a privilege we get to do that we get to sit on our couches at nights, you know, pop in some pizza rolls and play our favorite game, right? So taking that into account and trying to relay that through, I mean, at the time my personal page, but now the Ben Studio page, right? Just be kind. It's like it's that simple, right?
Right.
It's cliche, but it's like you just have to be kind to one another, and the more you do that, it is contagious, and other players will start doing it, and then all of a sudden, yeah, you have a Days Gone subreddit or something of that magnitude that's like, okay, you've kind of built a foundation, and everyone's kind of being nice, and the people who come in and aren't so nice. They don't last long because they're like, oh, this isn't fun for them if people are just super friendly, right?
Right, right.
So yeah, and altogether, it's just games are fun. Be kind to each other on social media, and just keep sharing that positivity, and that's what's going to make gaming in general just 1,000 times better for everyone.
Absolutely. To say Days Gone has had a big impact on your life would be an understatement. Can you tell us the story of how your life has changed since discovering Days Gone?
Yeah.
Settle in, grab your popcorn.
Yeah. Being here now at Ben Studio, I would have never imagined it would have happened this way when I first started sharing screenshots on Twitter or started writing the blog. Like, sure, I could, in the back of my mind, that was the ideal goal, right? Was maybe I can get work for Ben Studio in some capacity, but then there was like, how, why, you know? Um, so yeah, like booting Days Gone up for the very first time 2019, I didn't know what was coming afterwards. Like it was just another game I was going to play and enjoy. And I enjoyed it so much that I just took it to a different level with content creation. And that content creation took me to places that I didn't really think about taking to, like, started talking to the people at Ben Studio and then having an opportunity to work at Bend. Um, and they reached out to me and it's like, hey, we have an opportunity here, for a community manager position. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to apply. I, but it was just that imposter syndrome in me. It's like, I'm not going to get this, right? Like, I don't have any gaming industry experience. I have a bachelor's degree in computer network and security that I got while I was, working full time at my previous job, which was a warehouse. But while I was working at the warehouse, like I would be writing Days Gone blog posts
Hmm.
or, doing, interacting with the community while I'm sitting there completely hating my job.
Oh.
um, but and then going through that process of having the interview at Ben Studio and being nervous as hell throughout the entire thing. And then the next couple of weeks afterwards, like, did I do well? Right? It's constantly ringing through my head. Did I do it? Am I going to get this? Did I just completely screw everything up? Right? And at the time, like I said, I was working in a warehouse, and I wasn't making much money. I didn't like my job. I just got my degree, but I'm like, where do I go now? And then the opportunity came up, and they offered me the job, and they actually offered me the job when I walked into my second shift job, and I saw the name come across, and I told my coworker, I didn't even know. I'm like, I have to head out for a second. I'll be back. And I go out, and they're talking to me, and they're like, hey, we'd like to offer you the position at Ben Studio, blah blah blah. And at that point, it's like I start crying just a little bit. It's like, I made it somehow, and I'm still in like disbelief of like, why? And it was just like kept ringing into my ears of like, man, this really it? And then then I got a start date. It's like, oh, this is real now, right? And when I first started, it was March 2 years ago, actually. It was remote work at Virginia. So
Hmm.
it was a little strange because I got my dream job, but I was working at the same house that I was living at for, as I was going traveling Interstate 95 to go to a job I completely disliked.
Hmm.
Um, and then then we moved out here, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions, and every day I still kind of just pinch myself that I'm here and that Ben Studio just gave me this opportunity. um our studio head Chris Reese has been he's an amazing guy, and he was one of the ones that just really like kind of wanted me here. And um, you know, people like that at the studio, they're just like, it's like an abundance. Like everyone is so friendly here. And yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and it's really kind of just feels, like I said, I'm still in disbelief.
2 years later, you still
Yeah,
can't believe it.
2 years later.
What was it like the first time you walked into Ben's studio? Were you freaking out when you saw the Deacon statue and the bike that they have in the lobby?
Yes, I was. I finally got to get in after I moved here, and Chris, our studio head, gave me the tour of it, and I'm like, "Hey, can I sit on the bike?" And he's like, "Of course!" And he grabs my phone, gets some pictures of me on the bike,
Oh,
goes down to the Rager Bear, and it gets a picture of me there, and he's showing me everything, showing our mocap room, our theater, our photogrammetry booth, the works, right? And it's like, man, this is so freaking cool. Like, I'm here, I see the Days Gone stuff on the walls. I'm like, I made it. This is heaven.
did I die?
Yeah.
You tweeted recently that you've had a lot of surreal moments since joining the studio. What are some of the standouts?
Yeah. You know, it's almost like every other month. I'm like, ooh, this is like, I didn't think I would be able to do this, right? Um, some I can't talk about, but others are like, ooh, like writing PlayStation blog posts. Um, I've written, I think, I don't even know, four at this point, but doing my very first one for Days Gone PC launch was just like really cool because it's like I started at my little itty bitty free blog that I made up, and now I'm writing on the PlayStation blog about Days Gone. Like that very first one hit me. I'm like, whoa, this is
That's big.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then seeing PlayStation tweet that out, and you click onto it, and it's, it says my name and at Ben Studio. I'm like, that was really cool. Um, and then the other one, which is more recent, is getting my name, not names. I only have one name. Getting my name in the Days Gone PC credits. So my team was awesome, and they put me in. So if you play Days Gone PC, you can actually just access the credits off the main menu, and it'll go down, and then it'll have Ben Studio PC development team, and under that it'll have studio and then community manager Kevin McAllister. And
That's
that
awesome.
was something that was like, I didn't think that would happen. I thought my name would be in our current project we're working on right now. I thought that was going to be the first time I was going to see my name. So seeing that first play on Days Gone PC and just watching it, yeah, it was just a completely surreal moment of, like we talked about, starting from sharing screenshots in a blog to now having a name in the
Yeah.
credits. It's insane.
But well deserved. Well
Thank
deserved.
you.
I mean, you're now community manager. You're listed in the credits as community manager. You're that and you're more than that. Like I said, you're one of the OG content creators. You're one of the founding members of the community. It's like this is a community that you've built. So fuck yeah, you get your name in the credits.
Well,
Fuck yeah,
thank you
you
so
do.
much. Thank you.
So you live in Oregon, obviously, in Bend.
Yep.
What is it like to live in essentially Days Gone land?
Oh, I freaking love this place. So it's like I felt like I've always been destined to live here in Bend. Like the culture, the down to earth vibes, the nature is just like right up my alley. Like, I lived in Virginia near Washington D.C., where it's just commercial buildings, interstate highways, house on top of houses. It was too busy, too hectic. I just didn't like it. Here, I'm able to explore caves. I'm able to go climb up mountains. I'm able to, you know, uh, just kind of go take my family and sit down at our one in a thousand breweries here in Bend, and bring our dog, and just see a bunch of families out talking, and just it's just such a cool vibe here. And playing Days Gone for however many hours, and then coming here and then playing Days Gone while in Oregon is a whole nother level of immersion. Like, you're playing it, and it's like I literally just drove past that mountain today, right? I just saw that out my window, but now I'm seeing it in the game. Or, visiting Crater Lake for the very first time, which is freaking beautiful. I know you visited it; it's insane. And
Yeah.
then being able to go to Crater Lake in the game, it's just like that type of stuff is so cool because it's like yeah, this is my backyard now in Days Gone. And, every time I enter a cave here in Oregon, all I think about is freakers. Like, it's on my mind constantly. It just doesn't, every cave I relate to freakers now.
Do you, when you go into caves, do you have like your earbuds in and you play the horde music?
I haven't because that'd just be terrifying because then maybe, maybe it will come true then.
You should do. You should do that.
That is a good idea, actually. I'm not gonna lie.
Ah. All right, let's talk about the game. What is your favorite thing about Days Gone?
Oh, my favorite thing is probably what's connected me most to Days Gone was probably the story. Deacon and Sarah, their relationship has always reminded me a lot of me and my wife. Um, and I just always love their dynamic from seeing their flashbacks and seeing how kind of Deacon opened up to her, and then just seeing how the how intelligent Sarah is and how badass she becomes, in this post-apocalyptic world, and seeing that like she wasn't relying everything on Deacon. Like Deacon found her. It's like, oh, cool, but she's like, I have work to do, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I love you, but there is shit that needs to be done in this world. And then almost like having a power couple going through this infested Oregon land of trying to save people, and then almost making Deacon become a leader because of Sarah's actions for the most part, right? And just that that relationship was just really it hit close to home for me. And then even um, Jack, the little puppy Jack, so cute. Um, during the time Days Gone launched, my dog that we rescued, her name was Sadie. We rescued her when she was like 2, um, and she got diagnosed with cancer right around the time Days Gone was launching.
Oh.
And not too long after that, we unfortunately had to put her down. So every time that Jack scene came, it was like when Jack jumped into Bruce's arms, that hit me, right? It was things that sometimes you just get maybe a once in a lifetime type thing when a game connects with you, and it's not really meaning to connect with you. It's just like your personal life is somehow lining up identical to a story, right? And weirdly enough, that's what kept happening for me in Days Gone.
Yeah. I feel like that must be what happens with a lot of people because Days Gone is one of those games that's just so special, that has connected with so many people. And for every person, it's different. Everyone has a different little angle or a different little take,
Hmm.
little thing that they connect with. I've been doing this podcast for 50 episodes now, and I still can't quite put my finger on what specifically makes it so special. But I think it must just be the combination, the culmination of so many small things, that so many opportunities for a player to find something to connect to.
Yeah, I agree. It's like we talked about earlier, like there's a little something for everybody in this game. And there's a big group of characters, and you can kind of, start connecting with one of those characters, and also relating to personal events, right? Like Days Gone came out and like COVID happened, right? And a
Mm.
lot of people play Days Gone during the shutdown, weirdly enough. And people just started rallying around that, and it was just like it's almost become a comfort game for a lot of people. Which also weirdly enough, because you have like 500 freakers chasing you, it should not be
Yeah, it's
comfortable.
not exactly comforting.
Yeah, but it's just, when you have a game that has a good gameplay loop, a good story, and just it's fun to play, right? It's fun to be in that world. It starts resonating with people, and yeah, and then having, a solid foundation of a community, whether that's through, all these social media platforms, which kind of bleeds into the other one, like Twitter goes into Reddit, Reddit goes into Instagram. You start finding all these people and you start talking to them, and yeah, it just becomes a game that's close to your heart.
Yeah. And it's a worldwide thing as well. It's not just the US. I mean, I get emails from people about the podcast. Like, I had an email the other day from someone in Italy. I had one last week from someone in South America. People all around the world are just, and I'm just like a little podcast,
Hmm.
that's a few thousand views and people are finding it. and messaging me and saying, "Hey, I love the podcast, but I love this game. I'm so glad you're doing this podcast because I love this game so much." All around the world. And I imagine, magnify that out from the small percentage of players who have found my podcast to how many people around the world are playing the game. It just goes to show that it is universal, that whatever the theme or the character or whatever that people connect with, it is universal.
Yeah, it's like we almost get stuck in our little bubbles, right? We have a very little community space where the day's gone, whether that's subreddit, whether it's Twitter, virtual photography community, whatever, right? Essentially, that is such a small percentage compared to millions of gamers around the world, right?
Hmm.
Even if you go to the Ben Studio account and however many followers the page has now, it's like that is only a percentage of the players that have played Days Gone. Like, not everyone's
Hmm.
on social media, not
Right.
everyone's on subreddit, right? It's There's so many people out there that have played this game and have connected with this game, and it's crazy to think about where it's like so much outside of US. There's a cosplayer in Italy that just did a just like teamed up with PlayStation Italy and did his Days Gone cosplay in front of that large PlayStation 5, right? So yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's just so cool hearing those stories that it has connected with so many people across the globe.
Yeah. Are the people at Bend aware that Days Gone has such a dedicated community, obviously outside of yourself?
Oh yes. Oh yes. We love Days Gone. We love our community. Every time we do community events, people on our team are always all for it. They love it. There's times I share, our virtual photographers or fan art uh in our Slack channels and people can see, so yeah, even the devs who aren't on social media, they still see your content creation. They still see your streams. They still see your epic fan art. Yeah, of course, me, community manager, I'm front lines of everything, but no, the whole team is like constantly impressed by like, wow, we're still getting screenshots daily, almost 4 years later.
Yeah.
It's incredible to see. And it's something that, we're all honored to see. Even the people who may be newer and maybe didn't work on Days Gone, they're just so blown away by it. They're like, oh, Ben Studio and Days Gone is just such an awesome community. And it just kind of motivates the team, right? It motivates the artist of motivates the programmers and animators of like, oh, how can we step this up for these players, for our community, for our awesome players? How do we make this better for them? So yes, we are very, very well aware of the community, and we love you all.
That's awesome. What can you tell us, if anything, about Ben Studio's next game?
Yeah, so we have announced a few times publicly that we are working on a new IP. So a new IP will include a new world, new characters, and the new IP will also include multiplayer. So all
Ooh.
this we announced, I think, last year during when we did our whole new Ben Studio logo reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's what I can give you right now.
Okay. Awesome. Appreciate it. All right. One final question. This is the question I ask everyone who comes on the podcast. If you found yourself in the world of Days Gone, how would you fare and which camp would you end up in?
That's a good question. I like this question. I'm gonna be optimistic. I'm gonna think I would fare well. Okay, so one, I put in a ton of hours in Days Gone. That's got to count for something. And then I put in a ton of hours in The Last of Us, so I know how these zombie things work, right? Not zombies,
I was going to
freakers.
say neither of them are zombies, but
Don't say the Z word. I think I would fare well, and then there's another part of me where I have a family and I would want to do everything to protect them. So yeah, I'm gonna say, okay, say everything goes down. I'm lasting a good year. I have to last a good year. Um,
optimistic.
Optimistic, yes. What was the other question?
Oh, which camp would you end up in?
Yes. Lost Lake. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like there's no other option. Like Tucker sucks. Copeland, he's Copeland.
Also, Copeland's Camp, I always think Copeland's Camp looks so uncomfortable. It's
It
so wet
does,
and
right?
dreary and
Yeah.
muddy there. I would not want to be there. I'd rather be, up in the fire lookout tower or something
Yeah, right?
than at
It's like a
Copeland's Camp.
big giant tree house. Like, yeah, I'd
Yeah.
rather go to Lost Lake. They at least have cabins you can sleep in, you know?
I mean, yeah. I mean, Lost Lake is the obvious answer of where you'd want to end up.
Yep.
But do you think you have what it takes to find Lost Lake? Like, what would
Mm,
you, because, there's the whole thing about it costs a lot for us to, support mouths to feed and all of that. What
right.
would you provide to the camp in return?
That's a good question. See, I've always considered myself a very hard worker. Like, I have to keep doing stuff, right? Like, I have to, like, as my job, I have to keep creating. I have to keep coming up with ideas. So, for Lost Lake, maybe, maybe I'm the community manager of Lost Lake,
I see
where,
you as like being like the guitar guy at Lost Lake who sings the
yeah,
song
yeah,
every 11 o'clock every night. Someone like that who you're the morale lifter, the community, bringing the community together, bringing people together, keeping spirits up.
yeah, there we go. Just, I won't be able to sing too well. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you don't have to sing. You can just like
Just
organize other
talk.
people to sing
Yeah,
or read
maybe.
poetry or something.
Exactly. Have some like game board nights, you know?
Right. You'd be there by day, like making up a new, like making chess pieces, a chessboard and
Exactly.
stuff like
Yep,
that, and
yep.
then present it for tournaments and things.
That's perfect.
Oh, that's fantastic. All right, a couple things before we wrap up. You can support the Days Gone podcast via buymeacoffee.com/8bitterror. You can do a one-time contribution or become a member. There are various levels, each with their own perks and rewards, and membership starts for as little as $1 a month. You can check out all the details at buymeacoffee.com/8bitterror. And I want to give a shout out to my members: Miranda Satin, Basics of Pain, Captain Caffeine, Jay Stabby, Obscured by Ink, Hani Okashay, Anton G, Tom Moose, James Guan, Borislav 24/7, Neanderthal Bard, WD Henderson, Dogbone, Passionflower Percussion, Zylock DNB, Bex, Mike, Andy, Alexandru, Catherine the Great, Dandy Denny, Colourful Soldiers, CJ Voorhees, John Wagner, Nomad 416, Marcus Horton, Hack Parachute, Roast Chestnut, Stickman, and Daily Lad. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share so more people can find the show. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been absolutely awesome.
Thank you for having me, Claire. It was really fun and going down memory lane, even though, like you said, it was only like 3 or 4 years ago. But yes, thank you. It's always great talking Days Gone.
You can email me your thoughts, comments, opinions, and counter-arguments at daysgonepod@gmail.com. You can also find me moderating the Days Gone subreddit. Thanks for listening. Weaver out.